There are messages that come to you by chance. And then there are messages like this. They don't just appear. They arrive with precision, quietly, secretly, right when you're at the edge of something. Not because you were searching, but because something inside you was already asking for a shift. What you're about to hear isn't public knowledge. It's a private code, a spiritual trigger that, when whispered with belief, begins to change things. Not over months, but minutes. Joseph Murphy spoke often of the power of inner rituals, private moments between you and the infinite. These moments don't need approval, audience, or noise. They happen in stillness, in secrecy, and that's exactly why they work. Because the subconscious doesn't need drama. It responds to depth. When you close your eyes, feel the words, and say them with conviction, even for 2 minutes. You're not just praying, you're programming. The prayer you're about to hear may sound simple, but every word is charged. It's designed to collapse the identity of struggle and awaken a different tone, one that says, I am no longer available for lack. I am no longer waiting to receive. I receive now. This isn't motivational. This is vibrational. You're about to speak to the part of yourself that has always had access to overflow, but forgot how to turn the signal back on. And here's the real reason it works. Because it's done in secret. Not to hide from the world, but to bypass resistance. When no one's watching, there's no performance, only presence. And presence is where miracles begin. So stop scrolling, stop questioning, just be still. 2 minutes, that's all it takes. Say it in silence, or out loud, but say it with your full self. Because the moment you do, reality will have no choice but to rearrange itself in your favor. Not all power is loud. In fact, the most transformative forces move in silence. Joseph Murphy taught that what you do in secret, especially what you believe, feel, and affirm when no one is watching, holds more influence than anything performed in front of others. The subconscious mind is not moved by performance. It is moved by inner agreement. And agreement happens in quiet. There's a reason you're asked to say this prayer alone, a reason this message didn't arrive in the middle of chaos, but in a still moment, with headphones on or late at night. Because silence sharpens intention. It strips away ego, and it opens a clear line between your words and your subconscious. That's when manifestation begins. Not when you shout louder, but when you believe deeper. Science has long shown that the subconscious is most open when you're calm, focused, and emotionally engaged. This is why silent repetition, whispered affirmations, and 2-minute prayers spoken from a place of stillness hold more creative power than hours of anxious thinking. It's not the quantity, it's the quality of your vibration. And vibration is amplified by emotion, but directed by quiet clarity. When you affirm in private, your mind isn't distracted by how it looks or who's listening. It's fully present, and presence is the currency the universe responds to. The words you speak in secret, money comes to me effortlessly. I release all resistance to receiving now, become instructions to the deeper layers of you. Layers that control habits, attraction, even perception. This is why secret rituals often lead to public results. Not because they're magic, but because they bypass resistance. They build belief without interruption. And over time, belief becomes reality. Quietly, powerfully, unshakably. Most people think change requires hours of meditation, years of discipline, or complicated rituals. But Joseph Murphy taught something radically different, that the subconscious responds instantly to clarity, that a few minutes of aligned thought, when charged with faith and emotion, can do more than years of forced effort. That's why the prayer in this message doesn't ask for your day. It asks for 2 minutes. 2 minutes of pure connection. 2 minutes of deep emotional agreement. Why 2 minutes? Because that's long enough to shift your frequency and short enough to bypass your resistance. The conscious mind often interrupts. It doubts, argues, questions. But when you focus deeply for just a brief window, you can enter a state of energetic coherence. In that state, your thoughts, emotions, and intention become one. And when that happens, even for a moment, the subconscious receives the message without static. This is why so many people feel a shift even before the prayer is finished. It's not about repetition alone. It's about immersion. When you give yourself completely to the moment, letting every word sink into your emotional body, you trigger a vibrational imprint. One that tells the universe, this is my new normal. This is the reality I'm prepared to live. You're not begging for money. You're not visualizing someday wealth. You're declaring, now, here, I open myself fully. 2 minutes of that level of internal congruence sends a stronger signal than a day full of doubt. And once that signal is sent, something begins to move, inside and around you. Because energy doesn't wait for your schedule, it responds to your readiness. You've heard affirmations before, you've said words, you've visualized outcomes, but nothing moves until feeling enters. Joseph Murphy was clear. The subconscious mind is not moved by words alone. It is moved by feeling attached to those words. And this is where most people miss the mark. They speak abundance, but feel fear. They declare wealth, but vibrate in lack. And the subconscious doesn't respond to words. It responds to the emotional truth behind them. That's why this 2-minute prayer must be felt, not just repeated. Every line is more than a sentence. It's a vibration waiting to be activated. When you say, I now accept the riches of the infinite, and feel the relief, the excitement, the certainty, something shifts. That feeling is the real message. That feeling becomes the new signal your body and energy emit. And that signal calls forth the experiences that match it. This is the hidden science behind why some manifest quickly while others wait for years. It's not effort, it's emotional alignment. When your words and your emotions speak the same language, the subconscious accepts them instantly. No resistance, no delay, just flow. And here's what makes it even more powerful. Emotion doesn't wait. You don't need to see the money before you feel the freedom. You must feel the freedom, and then the money comes. Because your emotional state is the magnet, not the bank account, not the numbers, but the frequency you hold while you're speaking, praying, listening. If you can allow yourself to feel wealthy, safe, abundant, even for just 2 minutes, you send out a new vibration. And once that vibration is steady, the universe begins to respond. Quietly, quickly, consistently. Emotion is the switch. Turn it on, and the flow begins. There is a point in your journey where repetition isn't enough. You must choose to let go of what no longer belongs to you, and scarcity is one of those things. Joseph Murphy taught that every limitation we experience is the result of an accepted belief, not a truth, a belief. And beliefs can be changed. But first, they must be questioned. You must look at the story of poverty, fear, unworthiness, and say, this is not who I am anymore. The 2-minute prayer you've been practicing isn't just about calling in money. It's about canceling the internal agreement you once made with lack. You may not remember making that agreement. It may have been passed down, inherited, absorbed, but it's there. And unless you let go of it, no amount of effort will replace the frequency it carries. Letting go doesn't mean pretending. It means seeing the old belief for what it is, outdated, false, and no longer welcome. You don't need to fix scarcity. You only need to stop identifying with it. This is the power of spiritual repetition. Each time you say, "Abundance is my natural state," you're not just affirming something new. You're erasing what was never true to begin with. Identity is magnetic. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It mirrors who you are. So if you keep identifying as the one who needs money, the experience of need will remain. But the moment you shift, the moment you accept that wealth is not something to chase, but something to embody, everything begins to realign. This is why the prayer works. It doesn't beg, it declares. It replaces old scripts with a new tone, one that your subconscious understands as truth. And once the inner identity shifts, the outer world can't help but follow. You are not scarcity. You never were. And now, with each word, you return to the truth you forgot. You are already enough. And from enoughness, everything flows. Some of the greatest shifts in life don't happen under lights. They happen in quiet rooms, in early mornings or silent nights, in whispered prayers and unseen moments. Joseph Murphy often described the subconscious mind as a garden, and the most fertile soil is found in privacy, when no one is watching, when it's just you and the divine. This is where power lives, not in performance, but in pact, the silent agreement you make with yourself and your source. When you do this in secret, something strange happens. You remove pressure. You dissolve the ego's need for validation. You stop performing spirituality and start living it. That's why miracles respond faster, because you're no longer blocked by the noise of expectation. You're aligned with the essence of truth. In the prayer you've been given, each line is more than a request. It's a coded declaration, and when spoken in private, its frequency hits deeper. Your subconscious doesn't have to compete with external doubt. It hears clearly. It accepts quickly. And what it accepts, it creates. Privacy creates purity, and purity amplifies vibration. When you declare in secret that wealth is already yours, without needing to convince anyone, that declaration becomes sacred. It becomes a pact that only you and the universe know about. And that secrecy becomes spiritual gravity, drawing into your life exactly what you've aligned with, without resistance. That's why some of the most prosperous people have private rituals, not because they're hiding something, but because they understand the mechanics of spiritual energy. The more stillness, the more focus. The more secrecy, the less interference. So speak your truth in the shadows, not because you're afraid, but because that's where it becomes real. You've waited long enough, not just in time, but in vibration. Most people don't realize that their delay isn't external, it's energetic. They believe they're blocked by circumstances, by lack of opportunities, by bad luck. But Joseph Murphy taught that nothing is truly delayed. It's simply unaccepted. The subconscious doesn't withhold. It only mirrors. And what it mirrors is your readiness. The moment you stop seeing wealth as something to earn and begin seeing it as something to allow, delay dissolves. That's the shift, from waiting to receiving, from trying to aligning. The prayer you've been practicing doesn't just ask for wealth, it activates provision. When you say, "God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply," you're not pleading. You're stepping into a frequency that assumes money is already in motion toward you. Immediate provision doesn't come from panic or pressure. It comes from certainty. It comes when you say the words with conviction, and your body believes them. Your nervous system calms, your thoughts settle, and your energy expands. That's when the universe detects a new signal, one it can respond to without resistance. There's no need to beg for what's already been given, only to claim it. And the claiming doesn't happen through force, it happens through identity. You no longer speak as the one who lacks, you speak as the one who receives. And that changes everything. Doors open, messages arrive, money comes, sometimes from strange places. Not because you manipulated reality, but because you matched it. This is the law. Energy flows where acceptance grows. And the more you return to that vibration, even for 2 minutes a day, the less space there is for delay. Until one day, you wake up and realize nothing is missing anymore. There's a moment, subtle, quiet, and unmistakable, when things begin to change. You don't always see it at first, but you feel it in the way people look at you, in the unexpected message, in the opportunity that arrives without warning. That's not coincidence. That's the atmosphere around you responding to who you've become, because energy doesn't lie. And when you've spent 2 minutes every day aligning your voice, your emotion, your belief, something begins to echo beyond your inner world. The subconscious has accepted the command, the universe has registered the signal, and the shift becomes inevitable. You're no longer thinking about wealth, you're vibrating it. You're no longer hoping for a break. You're expecting what's already yours. That expectation changes the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you respond to life. And life, sensing that shift, adjusts in return. This isn't the end of the prayer. It's the beginning of a pattern, one that becomes your new normal. A loop of abundance where nothing is forced, everything flows. You don't need to say more. You need only to stay aligned. Keep the secret sacred. Keep the practice simple. And let the results speak louder than words. Because once the atmosphere shifts, nothing is the same. Not because the world changed, but because you did.